Charge more money. That's one of the first pieces of advice I give to all new and young entrepreneurs is never, ever, ever, ever fight on price. As a matter of fact, you want to go the exact opposite direction. You want to be the premium provider. One of my favorite examples to use is my pool guy. I've gone through 4 or 5 pool guys. I can't find somebody that I know and trust. I'm constantly running into issues to where they don't show up or they don't do the job or my pool turns green or whatever the problem is. And interestingly, they all charge the same amount of money. If you live in Phoenix, Arizona right now, you're going to get your pool cleaned for $150 a month. That's what all of them charge. I would do anything for somebody to knock on my door and say, hey, I'm $300 a month, but you never have to worry about anything ever again, and I guarantee that your pool's always gonna be crystal clean. I would jump on that in an instant. And I'm not the only one. That's what's really interesting is most industries build their value proposition around price, and then it becomes this horrible race to the bottom. And because it's a race to the bottom, they put themselves in a position to not be able to pay for adequate talent, not be able to cover other issues or situations along the periphery. And if they make a mistake, there's no margin that gives them the opportunity to make it up. When you charge more, when you become the premium provider, the first thing that puts you in a position to do is to bring along the best talent. And there's only 3 value propositions any business has. It's processes, programs, and people. Processes are readily accessible and come from experience. Programs are massively commoditized and available to most people. Processes, programs, and people. People are the key differentiator. In every industry, every endeavor, every business, it's people. And when you charge more, you put yourself in a position to be able to pay more. And when you pay more, you're able to offer better service, better outcomes, better products, better, literally everything. You name it and it gets better. So be the premium provider. I used to start my sales calls that way. I'd hop on a call with a client and be like, just so you know, I'm the most expensive agency you're gonna talk to all day. And if you think I'm expensive, wait until you see what a cheap agency costs you. It sounds like a line, but it's not, because that ends up being true. What happens when you bring on a cheap provider? With anything, what does a cheap mechanic cost you? What does a cheap hairdresser cost you? What does a cheap makeup artist cost you? What does a cheap web dev cost you? Like, there's nothing effective about being cheap, and there's nothing symbiotic about a relationship between a customer and a cheap vendor. That customer is trying to get the most for the least, and that vendor has no margin to provide anything. So if you're the person seeking out the cheapest providers, I hate to break it to you, but you're part of the problem here. What's really interesting about this framework is the same customer can go from being a nightmare to being one of the best clients that you've ever had simply by turning this around. And I've seen that happen before. As a young entrepreneur, you know, I did website development for a long, long time, and I was constantly trying to be the cheapest. That's how I was earning this work, is I was the cheapest. And that blew up in my face all the time. And what was interesting is very often when it blew up, the customer would end up having to go pay for a real website designer who was charging them real money. And I was always blown away at what they were willing to pay. And in my mind, I'm like, well, gosh, if you would have paid me that, I'd have been able to actually get this job done. But I'm the one that established the framework. The customer tried me first, went with the cheapest option, and then if they wanted to make a change, iterate, the scope of work wasn't right on the front end, we would end up in this combative situation. They'd move on to a premium provider, would pay them real money, and the premium provider would be able to deliver on something really of value, really epic. Put yourself in a position of being the premium provider. I will not enter an industry, invest in an industry, if I can't be in the top 10%. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to go ivory tower, white glove, expensive conference rooms, $12 croissants. I think that this perspective and paradigm can bleed into the excess. What I'm asking you to do is never put yourself in a position where you're competing on price alone. You can be the best value, but you should never be competing on price alone. The industries that do that, I actually think, are ripe for disruption. And you see this happen all the time. You see a premium provider enter the space. I saw this happen in dry cleaning recently. Just around my house, there's all these different these little mom and pop dry cleaners, and they're all competing on price, competing on price, competing on price. And there's this corporate dry cleaner, and they charge 10 times what everybody else charges. But it's all white glove service, and they'll pick up and they'll drop off, and they take care of like really delicate items. And it's unreal because they just have a line out the door. Be the premium provider, charge more, pay more, put yourself in a position of cultivating talent. And I think one of the most important things about charging the most is if I make a mistake, I can make it up to you. I actually make enough money to be able to, whatever mistake we made, there's margin, there's opportunity, there's space for me to say like, gosh, I'm so sorry. Why don't I waive next month's fee? Or, you know, let me throw somebody else at this so we can get this done in time. That's what you want to be able to do. I hope that's helpful. I know it's easy for me to just sit here behind a microphone and tell you charge more money. And when you're a young entrepreneur especially, or you're just getting started, it can be really scary. My only ask is try it. See what happens. So raise your rates to something that would actually make you really excited to get a job and see the way that people respond. Because very often value is a perception, and it's a perception that you can assign. So I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.